Huh? Well, he put some clothes on. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Jasura Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana. Jasura Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Jasura Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana. Jasura Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana. Jamuna Tira Vanachari. Jamuna Tira Vanachari. Jayo Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Sri Radha Madhava ki, Sri Radha Giridhari ki jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Gauri Vraj ki jai. Jashodhara Shishi Maharaj Divine Grace of Vaicharana Aravinda Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivraj ki jai. Jashodhara Shishi Maharaj His Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Saranda Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Prabhupada ki jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnavrinda ki jai. Grantara Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Samveda Bhakti mein ki jai. Gaura Premanandi. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories assembled devotees. All glories assembled devotees. All glories. All glories. Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. Hare Krishna. So this morning we're reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam, 6th canto, 9th chapter. This is text 22. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Avishmitam Tam Paripurna Kamam Svinaiva Labena Samam Prashantam Vinopasarpati Aparam Hi Balishaha Swa La. Let's see, break it up in words down below. Langulena Atititarti Sindhum Avishmitam Tam Paripurnakama Svanaiva Labena Samam Prajantam Vinopasarpati Yaparam Hibalisha Swalangulena Tititarti Sindhum Avishmitam Tam Paripurnakamam Svainaiva Labena Samam Prajantam Vinopasarpatya Param Hibalisha Swalangulena Tititarti Sindhum Avishmitam Tam Paripurnakamam Svainaiva Labena Samam Prajantam Vinopasarpatya Param Hibalisha Swalangulena Tititarti Sindhum. Anyone like to chant? Abhismitam Tam Paripurnakamam Swalangulena Tititarti Sindhum
Avishmitam Tam Paripurnakamam Svanaiva Samam Prashantam Svanaiva Samam Prashantam Vinopasarpatya Param Hibalisha Swalangulena Tititarti Sindhum Avishmitam Tam Paripurnakamam Svanaiva Labena Samam Prashantam Vinopasarpatya Param Hibalisha Swalangulena Tititarti Sindhum
Avishmitam Tam Paripurnakamam Svanaiva Labena Samam Prashantam Vinopasarpatya Param Hibalisha Swalangulena Tititarti Sindhum.
Anyone else? Anyone online?
Avishmitam Tam Paripurnakamam
Nam Tam Paripurnakamam
Svanaiva Labena Samam Prashantam
Svanaiva Labena Samam Prajantam
Vinopasarpati Aparam Hibalisha
Vinopasarpati Balisha
Swalangulena Tititarti Sindhum
Swalangulena Tititarti Sindhum. Synonyms: Avishmitam, who is never struck with wonder. Tam, him. Paripurna kamam, who is fully satisfied. Svena, by his own. Eva, indeed. Labhena, achievements. Samam, equipoised. Okay. Prajantam, very steady. Vina, without. Upasarpati, approaches. Aparam, another. He, indeed. Balisha, a fool. Shva, of a dog. Langulena, by the tail. Atititarti, wants to cross. Sindhum, the sea. Translation of Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Free from all material conceptions of existence and never wonderstruck by anything. The Lord is always jubilant and fully satisfied by his own spiritual perfection. He has no material designations, and therefore he is steady and unattached. That Supreme Personality of Godhead is the only shelter of everyone. Anyone desiring to be protected by others is certainly a great fool who desires to cross the sea by holding the tail of a dog. Please repeat. Free from all material conceptions of existence and never wonderstruck by anything. The Lord is always jubilant and fully satisfied by his own spiritual perfection. He has no material designations, and therefore he is steady and unattached. That Supreme Personality of Godhead is the only shelter of everyone. Anyone desiring to be protected by others is certainly a great fool who desires to cross the sea by holding the tail of a dog. Purport. A dog can swim in the water. You know what kind of stroke they use? Yeah. This you learn when you start swimming, right? But if a dog dives in the ocean and someone wants to cross the ocean by holding the dog's tail, he is certainly fool number one. A dog cannot cross the ocean, nor can a person cross the ocean by catching a dog's tail. Similarly, one who desires to cross the ocean of nescience should not seek the shelter of any demigod or anyone else, but the fearless shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Srimad Bhagavatam therefore says, Samasritaye pada palava palavam mahatpadam punyasho murare bhavam buddhir vatsapadam param padam yadvipadam natisham. The Lord's lotus feet are an indestructible boat, and if one takes shelter of that boat, he can easily cross the ocean of nescience. Consequently, there are no dangers for a devotee, although he lives within this material world, which is full of dangers at every step. One should seek the shelter of the All-Powerful instead of trying to be protected by one's own concocted ideas. Om Agyantimirandasya Gyananjana Salakaya Chakshuranminitam Nena Taismai Sri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Nena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Svapadandikam Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Banchakapudurubhascha, Kripa Sindhuvevacha, Patitanam Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. So by your good wishes and prayers, ardent prayers, I'll try to say a few words. Okay. So there's two things here. Two themes we like to talk about. One is a beautiful description of Krishna's position, our definition of God, the Supreme Absolute Truth, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. I was listening to a few, actually just yesterday morning, in the kitchen. There was a Prabhupada lecture, and I remember hearing this recently too, in one room conversation. Prabhupada was talking with people about self-realization and understanding what the self is, and Prabhupada kept bringing up the point is you don't really can't understand the self until you understand Krishna. It's not possible, because Krishna is the absolute truth, and all truths are dependent upon Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So understanding, it's very important to understand who Krishna is, our definition. People have so many ideas. In fact, that's what Prabhupada ends the purport by talking about concocted ideas or limited understanding. But the Bhagavatam presents the most complete understanding of the absolute truth, or God, Krishna. And there's a few qualities described in this particular verse. First, he's free from all material conceptions of existence. In other words, Krishna's never in Maya. There's two terms, gunamayi and gunatit. You know what those are? Yes, what are they? You're shaking your head, yes, or you're just kind of like enjoying life. So what's gunamayi? Yes, and gunatit? Yes, so Krishna's gunatit. He's above the modes of material nature. They're his, just like the sun actually creates the clouds, but it's above the clouds. So Krishna's above all material conceptions of existence. So Krishna's never in Maya. And there are those who think Krishna's in Maya. What are they called? Mayavadis, right? They just think, yeah, Buddha's rascals. So the Krishna's Naham Prakasha, what is that verse? Is that what I'm thinking of? Yeah, mudhoyam nabhijananti. So they're mudhas. Krishna says right in the Bhagavad Gita. They don't understand Krishna's transcendental position. He's beyond, so he's not in Maya. So that's a very good quality. So he's not in Maya. It says here, he's never wonderstruck by anything. That means nothing in the material world. He's not excited by anything. In the material world, people are always trying to get excited about stuff, right? You know, the number one word it perpetually in marketing is? It's a 3-letter word, new. You just have to put new in front of something like that. In fact, even we've had Indians say better than new. You ever found that when you to buy something in Vrindavan or Mayapur? This is better than new. What's better than new? But it's better than new. So they say like that. So, but when you say new, like that, it's, let me check it out, right? Something's new. We always want something new. We always want to be wonderstruck by, what's going on in the material world. And Maya presents everything as being something beautiful and wonderful, and those in Maya, they know that also. Maya herself and her agents are marketing the material world. Come on, enjoy, like that. Come on and enjoy. And the conditioned soul is thinking, there's a chapter, is it the 5th canto, about the forest of material existence? That the vanik, the business person, enters the forest thinking, I'll make a profit if I go into this forest. I'll find so many different things to sell and this and that. I have a brother who does that. Yeah, he goes into the forest and he collects moss off of rocks and sells it to high-end florists in New York and Boston. He's been doing that for decades. He just goes in the forest and finds moss, pieces of birch wood and different things, and then they'll buy it at a high price. Very low overhead. Backbreaking work, but he's been doing it for a long time. But anyways, to go to the forest thinking, let me find something wonderful that I can profit from. So the material world's like that. And as long as we are wonderstruck, we just keep going. Right? And the devotees aren't wonderstruck. They just don't see anything of value in this material world anymore. Separate from Krishna. That's very important. Because actually everything in the material world is very, very valuable. It's Krishna's energy. But if there's no connection to Krishna, then we don't see a value. We don't see a value to it. So that's the difference. So this wonderstruck by anything. So, and it says, Lord is always, because of that, he's always jubilant, and he's very jubilant and always satisfied by his own spiritual perfection. So Krishna is always happy and satisfied. He's Atmaram, described here. Prashanta, Samam. He has no material designations, and therefore he's steady and unattached. So these are Krishna's qualifications, many of Krishna's qualifications. So, and therefore he is the real shelter for those who are trying to become free or cross the ocean of material existence. The famous verse Chaitanya Mahaprabhu quotes. What is that? How's that begin? For one who seriously wants to cross the ocean of material existence, association with materialistic people or those attached is like drinking poison. Ha hanta hanta. What is that? Baba. What is that? How's that begin? The kinchanasya. Okay, you're right. So one who really wants to get out of the material world, they have to avoid bad association and take shelter of Krishna. Now, Prabhupada, of course, gives the example, and I think this example is somewhere else in the Bhagavatam too, also about catching the tail of a dog, But it looks like it's an opportunity, right? The dog is swimming, he's got this curved tail, you just hold on to it and it'll just take you. But that's not going to happen. The dog can't swim across the ocean, and if you think you're going to swim across by grabbing the tail of the dog, guess what's going to happen? Both are going to drown. The most important thing I remember from my lifeguard or life-saving merit badge when I was a wee little boy, the most important thing they teach you about lifeguard training? The number one thing they teach you. Has anyone ever been a lifeguard or anyone online now? It's a very good lesson. The very first thing they teach you is if you think you're going to drown by trying to save that person, don't try to save them. Very important lesson, right? If you think they're going to, because if you go to save someone who's drowning, the first thing they do? They grab you. They grab you like this because they're drowning. And they can drown you if you're not strong enough and know what to do. So they teach you all these moves about, when they try to grab you, what to do with their arms and flip them over. And if you're not strong enough of a swimmer or this or that, or just don't think you should do it, don't do it. It's the first thing they teach you. So if you see a dog swimming, and you think you can grab onto the tail and don't do it. It's not going to work. It's just not going to work. So that's the point being made, a very graphic example. And the words in Sanskrit, Balisha, means a fool. Bali means also child, childlike. Foolish children sometimes are foolish. They're not because they're not experienced. It looks like it could work, right? Hey, that looks like it could work. People do stupid things. They have these, what's that, America's something videos. Funny home videos, right? Right. I don't know if that's still on, years and years ago it goes on. And they just have these people doing stupid things. Some of it's funny, but they also have people just doing stupid things like riding their bicycle off their roof into their pool or something. And they get hurt, really bad. All these people doing crazy, stupid things. And they're usually very young people, right? Young people are known to do foolish, stupid things. So the word bala, foolish child, stupid things, because they have no experience. I remember one person explaining they had just seen, he grew up in a family of 7 boys, and they had just seen, this back, I guess, in the 60s, they had just seen Mary Poppins. So they were jumping off their roof with umbrellas. And the father saw one kid go by, saw another kid go by, and they saw one kid go by without an umbrella. And they went outside and said, what do you guys, and he started yelling at his kids. They're all on the roof, thinking they're like Mary Poppins, jumping off the roof with umbrellas. It doesn't work. It's just a movie, but they're stupid little kids. They thought, so try it. So that's foolishness, stupidity. So Prabhupada quotes this verse from the Bhagavatam, which is this is from Lord Brahma, isn't it? Lord Brahma is speaking here. This samasritaye pada palava palavam mahat padam punya yasho marare bhavam buddhir vatsa padam param padam 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 yadvi padam nate sham. Okay, so it's Sukadeva Goswami speaking. For those who have accepted the boat of the lotus feet of the Lord, who is the shelter of the cosmic manifestation and famous as Murari, the enemy of the Mura demon, the ocean of the material world is like the water contained in a calf's hoofprint. Their goal is Param Padam, Vaikuntha, the place where there are no material miseries, not the place where there is danger at every step. So, short purport given as referring to, Prabhupada is bringing the point that Krishna's lotus feet are described as pallava. That means flower buds because they're most tender and of a pinkish hue. And Sanatana Goswami, pallava also indicates that Krishna's lotus feet are just like desire trees which can fulfill the desires of the Lord's pure devotees. So, in this verse, it's saying that one who takes shelter of those lotus feet, which are just like flower buds, plava means a boat. So a boat can carry us. The dog can't carry us across the ocean, but Krishna's lotus feet can carry us across this ocean of material existence, plavam. And therefore the great souls, they take shelter of Krishna's lotus feet. And by taking Krishna, just by that taking shelter of Krishna's feet, something miraculous happens that we all should be wonderstruck about. This is something that the whole material ocean becomes as insignificant as ambudhi vatsapadam, the water in a hoofprint of a calf. Just a calf, just shrinks down. In other words, it ceases to exist. That's Krishna's ability. Now, and says the parampadam, the devotees, that's their goal, the spiritual world, Vaikuntha, not this padam yad vipadam, place where there's danger at every step. It should come as no surprise that there's danger at every step in this material world. So the demigods are speaking this verse. And people take shelter of so many different things. That's the very last line of the purport. Instead of trying to be protected by one's own concocted ideas. So everyone in the material world, from Lord Brahma down to the insignificant ant, has some ideas about how they're going to cross over the suffering in this material world. Right? We all have ideas. We've been trying. We're talking about marketing. What is that? 8,400,000 species of life. So, marketing. So there's 8,400,000 different ideas. At least, and then from there expands so many others that try it this way, try it that way, try it this way. But even the demigods in more elevated societies, you worship maybe the devatas or something like that. You can worship demigods that they may help you become free from all your suffering in this material world. But here the demigods are pointing out that what can they do? They're taking shelter because a very difficult situation just happened, right? This is Vritrasura has appeared. And it doesn't look good. Doesn't look good at all. He's big. He's a big one. Just like you can imagine the Varnas when Kumbhakarna came out of Lanka. It's like, whoa. It's just like, Hare Krishna. This is, dear Lord Ram, Hare Krishna, this is going to be tough. He's just picking up, going like this, across the battlefield, picking up handfuls of monkeys and just eating them. And you got to somehow or other muster up the courage to fight someone like that. So they're praying. They're praying like anything. So they understand that what can they do? They're in a situation like that. And they're bewildered also. The very first verse of the Bhagavatam, what is that? Muyanti Yatsuraya, right? The demigods, Muyanti, are bewildered by this material nature. So what can they do? What can they do? Only Krishna, who is above the modes of material nature and all-powerful, his lotus feet can deliver us. So one has to take shelter. So the whole process of you can say, cultivating the knowledge in Krishna consciousness has come to this understanding. And then revelation that only Krishna can save me from the suffering in this material world. And any other idea, it won't work. And one thing to consider is how many times have we tried it? If you try something 5 times and it doesn't work, well, here's the question. How many times do you have to try something before you realize it's not going to work? 300 times? 8,400,000? Right? It's quite interesting. We just keep trying. I was just reading in that book on happiness. What's the name of it? Distributed in Sankirtan? Devamrita Swami's book, right? Okay. So there's two places in there I came across when I was reading it, because I give that out quite a lot. He made the point, it is a researched truth in economic development, that once you reach the level about middle class, no matter how much more money you have, you never become any happier. That's just it. So whatever that medium is, they have the basic things you need in life. Any money above that actually will not bring you any more happiness, and actually it brings you more distress. That's just science, okay? So he's giving a lecture, and many of those writings are just lectures expanded on from different universities in South Africa and so on. So he opens it up by asking how many people, and there's students and professors there, have heard of the study. And they all, most of them raised their hand. They heard of the study. And he reiterated the whole thing that, blah, blah. He gave all the details of the study. And he said, now you're here in the university getting an education. And understanding that, how many of you are going to stop when you're able just to live at a comfortable, middle of the road, middle class economic bracket? No hands. So he made the point, it's like a disconnect, complete disconnect. The science is there that you're not going to be any happier, so why work anymore? In fact, you'll become more distressful. But no one will raise their hand that, oh yeah, thank you, I don't think I'm going to work so hard or have to, no one will do it. I could be the exception. Everyone has that like tattooed on their wherever. I could be the exception. Right on the false ego. I am the exception. Not I could be, I am the exception. There's no exception. Like that. You're not going to find anyone, and we have tried it so many times. So that's that word, materially exhausted, right? Is that kinchana? Yes. Niskinchana or akinchana means materially exhausted. And that's not a defeatist. Sometimes the materialists will say, "Oh, you're a defeatist," like that. You gave up. Come on, get back in the race. Like that. Get back in there. Come on, come on. But the devotee has intelligence. Wait a second. It's not defeatist, it's intelligence. This particular path is not going to work. So I need to find something else. So I need to, and that when one comes to that, to the extent one has that revelation, then all the truths of Krishna consciousness start becoming revealed. Like that. One becomes a candidate for Krishna consciousness when they become at least inquisitive, but also miserable about the material world. So, what time is it? Oh, I keep talking. So what is it that keeps us going in the material world? Actually, Arjuna asked that question at the end of the 3rd chapter. What keeps us going in the material world, even though we've heard and we know it's not going to work out? Kamesha, Krodesha, Rajaguna, Samudbhava. It's just that deep within the heart is that desire to enjoy in the material world. And that comes from our original, you could say, envy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and the fact that denial of our constitutional position as eternal servants of the Lord.
And that's the answer to the question. Come, I test everything again. And by that lust, all knowledge of the study dissipated.
Like that takes it all away. So, what a science! See, science. It's all solved in the pages of the Bhagavatam and the Bhagavad Gita. So we should take it up like that. But I think there's maybe some discussion here. We could go on a few different stories and so on, but I'm going to end here because of the time. Have any questions or comments on these points? Wow, everyone's... I'm sure you can with my classes.
It's interesting that when you look at the whole, story that's unfolded, this history, and I pointed this out when I gave class, it started with a big mistake by Indra. A lot of pastimes start with a big mistake by Indra, and And it was all based on his karma. In other words, he was intoxicated with his position, and the officers are singing, and everyone's dancing, and Brihaspati walks in and says, "Oh, it must be Gurudev, okay." And, he didn't show him proper respect. That's the whole thing. And so then the result of that is so horrific. They get, the demons, because they had served Shukracharya nicely, they were empowered, and the demigods were weakened. And so they were getting conquered, they got injured, they approached Brahma, they were all injured, they were by the weapons and everything. So he pointed out, oh, you insulted your guru, you need another guru. So you go down and you accept Vishwarup. And so, okay, and they accept Vishwarup. And he's very deferential. He says, I'll be your priest and chant the mantras and give you this Narayan Kavacha so you'll be able to conquer again. And so that was very encouraging. But then Indra, although he was warned by Brahma, you have to be tolerant because he has some, feeling toward the demons.
Right.
His mother's, So they ignored that, and then when Indra saw that he was offering he was trying to do it in secret. So he completely flies off the handle and cuts off the heads of Vishwarup. That's
That's pretty
exponentially greater offense against the guru, obviously. So then the result of that is Trashta goes wild, and he tries to get someone to kill Indra, but he chants it wrong because he's so upset. One little mistake. That's what be careful about your long and shorts. And so out comes Vishwarup, who we learn later is actually Chitraketu. So then what to do about Vishwarup? So now they're praying to Lord Krishna to help us again, give us. And so he'll, advise him to go to the Dichi and beg his bones and get this invincible, from his bones you can make this invincible thunderbolt. So it's one example after another of the lust and the greed and amongst the demigods taking away the intelligence. And finally, when Indra is about to kill Vishwarupa, he says, "Oh no, I'm killing another Brahmin here. There'll be even worse sinful reactions." The other ones he was able to offload onto the women in the water. You remember that? There's a whole thing. And so the one who comes out ahead is Vishwarup. I mean, not Vishwarup, but Vitrasra.
Right.
Vitrasra, I'm sorry. Because he's not really a demon, he's actually a devotee inside. So he goes back to Godhead, and Indra is faced with all these sinful reactions, and he ends up in a lake somewhere breathing through a reed for like 1,000 years. So the danger, the whole thing is that using, their relationship with, the devotee Brahma, or even in this case with Krishna, for the material purpose. And that this is, I think, part of the lesson here, is that you get entangled in that, and it's an offense, and there's all this suffering that goes on. So this mixing your bhakti with material desire is always a bad bargain. That's my comment.
Okay. You had a question or comment?
I had a question, and it's kind of related to what Jyoti Prabhu said. I heard the other day on my lecture, it said that in the Harana Chitamani it says, like the Guru Tattva is understanding the consciousness of the disciple. If the spiritual master doesn't raise the disciple, the spiritual master could actually fall down. And I was wondering about that, and maybe you could expand on that, maybe. And then this offense on the guru, how serious is it, and how does the guru protect himself from a disciple that is not actually
wants
following.
To cut off his heads?
Yeah, exactly.
Triveda, what do you say to that?
I missed the first part. What was the first part?
It's saying the spiritual master in the Harinam Chintamani, the spiritual master that cannot bring his disciple up, he falls down. That must refer to. Go ahead.
Well, there's different ways in which that can happen.
Yeah.
One is that he was he's a charlatan, and And the only reason he would become a guru then is for material, aggrandizement. And that's certainly a dangerous position. Then you really get danger of getting your head cut off. And we had some experience in ISKCON of that. I'm not going to go into detail, but maybe you don't know that one. but anyway, that's one way. But even if you're qualified to begin with, and you're not maintaining that position because you become intoxicated or you become allured by the power and the pelf of being a guru. In other words, you're not really pure enough and determined enough to maintain that pure position. Then that's another hazard for the guru. It's a very, very heavy position, and therefore it can't be taken lightly. And that's why Prabhupada said, and one should spend some time, a year sometimes, he says, the guru should check out the disciple, and the disciple should check out the guru, and make sure that it was right before you take the plunge of actually taking initiation. Yeah, you can see that. That's the most sacred relationship. That's really the whole thing, is moving on that. And if that's corrupted then there's some serious reaction for that. So be careful on both sides, who you accept and how you present yourself.
Answer your question. Yeah, there's that one story about the disciples, the guru, swam out to that big rock in the Ganga, and they're all sitting on this rock, and there's a snake on the rock also, but the snake is being devoured by all these ants. And the guru is laughing at the scene, and the disciples thinking, it's such a horrible scene, and he's my guru, and he's laughing at the whole thing. So later on, he asked the spiritual master, that was a horrible thing. The snake is there, and all these ants are eating it, and it's alive. And so, what's that all about? He said, his previous life, he was the guru, and those were his bogus. He was a bogus guru, and those were his bogus disciples. And then they all took birth like this, and now they're eating their guru. That's what he said. That's the story. So, got to be careful. No, Radhanath Maharaj tells the story in one lecture from Puranas or something, but it's a good point. On that happy note, I guess we can end now, unless there's any questions online. Okay, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Hare Krishna.